This podcast is part of the Pull Up a Chair podcast network. Let's build community through connection, conversation, and collaboration. This podcast is sponsored by Lever Consulting, editing with a purpose. Check them out at leverconsulting.com for a free consultation.
I never wanna get used to the sound you whispering in my ear.
Hey friends, you're listening to the Cat and V Show. Pour yourself a juicy cup of tea, grab a seat, and get ready for us to dish.
Hey guys, so a couple weeks ago we brought up the fact, quote unquote, that the Star Wars fandom is toxic. And I'm just going to preface this by saying not all criticism that goes to the Star Wars community is a toxic comment, because there's a lot of real critiques out there. But there's a lot of racism and a lot of sexism. And I think I'll start this off by talking about, so Kelly Marie Tran played the character Rose in one of the recent Star Wars movies as the first, as far as I know, the first woman of color to ever be in the Star Wars film and not be a sex slave was a character named Rose, and she was part of the Resistance, and her character was very much a background character. She played some major roles in the movie that she was in, but she wasn't ever the star of those movies. But she got harassed online and on Twitter for being ugly and fat and a bad actress, that she disabled her Twitter account and did not show up in the next movie.
That... Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry, I just don't know what to say.
That's toxic. Now, you can say that you think her character wasn't what you wanted it to be and not be racist. But the fact that you're upset that she's a fat Asian woman is racist. And that's the thing. She wasn't fat, but she was on the larger side. And up to that point in all the Star Wars films, all the women have been either hot or really, really old. And she wasn't. She was in her early 20s. And she was cute.
Who is the actress? But, also, that's, body representation. And,
Yeah, so there was a lot of hate thrown at her, and then, it was bad, and that's what, to me, was, one of the first signs of, oh, there's a problem going on here, because it's not, there's been problems with all three sets of movies. There has been, and saying that is not being toxic. But certain opinions that have really popped up in the Star Wars fandom have been absolutely horrendous, because there is a black man who was a main character in the last set of movies, John, oh god, I'm gonna mispronounce this last name, and it's not because it's racist, just because I'm bad at pronouncing stuff, but I think his name is pronounced John Boyega, or Boyega. He's a black man, in my opinion a very cute man, but he was not a clone, but he was a stormtrooper in one of the last movies. I might be getting the terminology wrong, because the terminology for stormtroopers changes every group of movies. But he was a main character. He was a stormtrooper. And he was part of the core cast members of the last big set of movies. And he also was really, really harassed, and he refuses to come back to the movies because of the harassment that he has gotten because of them. People saying that because he's black?
Oh yeah. So he's a protagonist in this
Alright, so there's, up to this point in the Star Wars franchise, there's been a couple of black characters. There was Lando Calrissian, was the first black actor in any of the movies. And he was a sleazeball. He was scummy, he backstabbed the heroes of that movie, and he was just all around a bad guy. There was one other guy before that, Mace Windu, who was, butchered. His character was a pawn. More so than anything else. So this is, the first, main person of color. And he, like, it was bad. His character was supposed to be, like, a little, not like a nobody, but his character was an ex-soldier who didn't have a whole lot of personality, who developed a personality through the movies. That was his character arc. And the harassment that he's gotten over that was horrendous. And it wouldn't have been that if he was, I don't know, a white guy? Because a bland white guy is pretty average in a movie. Like, it's supposed to be a placement for the audience to be learning about these things.
I mean...
And so, like, that's awful.
It's terrible, and it's also... Like, it's so sad that it's even a thing.
But
like,
it gets worse than that. So the main character of the last 3 movies was a woman. And so she has also gotten harassed with people talking about how her being a main character goes against everything the series has built up so far, yada yada yada. She's a bad actress, the storyline's stupid. She shouldn't be a main character unless she's related to the male main characters of the previous movie, and that's the only way that these movies can justifiably be based around her. Now, I will give credence that some of the storylines were a little dumb. Like, not all of the writing was top-notch. Like, yes, true statements. But what keeps happening is in the fandom, if you say anything negative, people are all like, oh, well, you're part of the problem. You're part of those toxic people. And so it's like, you either have to criticize all of Star Wars, saying it's all sexist, it's all racist, and nothing good comes out of it, or you can make no criticism at all. And it's super bad. Like, I remember I was talking to a couple of other, I wouldn't call myself a fan anymore, but I was talking to a couple of other fans about my opinions on the Han Solo movie, and I thought that it ruined his character.
Okay.
Now, aside from why I think that, I got attacked saying I was a man-hater and that I was part of the reason the Star Wars community was going down the gutter, and that my wokeness... Yeah, no, like, it was bad. It was just like, I thought the writing was bad. I thought they misrepresented his character. Those are fair criticism, just like saying that you thought the storyline surrounding Rose was bad. Because it was. Like, she got used to go to a gambling hall and back, and it made no sense. Like, that's a fair criticism, but calling her fat and ugly is not a fair criticism.
Can I just make a note? I googled Rose, and also I believe her real name is Kelly Tran, like, as an actress. She's Vietnamese, which is like, I love, you know how I am. I'm Vietnamese too, so I love it when there's a few Vietnamese actresses that are really doing great things right now. But she's not even on the larger side.
She was when she was filming.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah.
So was she, like, bullied into losing weight? Is that...
I don't know the story about her weight loss, so I'm not going to speculate on that.
Okay.
But she wasn't fat, period, but she was thicker. A little bit thicker than you, Kat, during the filming of these movies.
Right, but she's so cute.
Yes, she is. That's aside from the point. But see, the problem with the Star Wars community is you're either all in love with it or you hate it, and that's the way it is. But there's so many things in the films itself that have fair critiques, that the fair critiques get mixed in with the really bad takes that get thrown around. A really good example of this, I'm pretty sure it was in the Han Solo movie, there was a robot who was advocating for robot rights, and it was a very, overt comparison to women talking about the women's suffrage movement, talking about women's rights. And the character was a joke. And I think she, like, either died or kind of, like, went missing at some point. And, like, that's kind of fucked up. Like, them making fun of quote-unquote woke culture. Meanwhile, they have their fans on the internet bullying. I'm pretty sure Kelly Tran, or Rose from the movie, she either deleted her Instagram or she deleted her Twitter over the Star Wars harassment. I can't remember which one it was, but she deleted one of them.
Let me just say that that's terrible.
It is.
Because
it's
this
so
is like
awful.
This is a woman literally just trying to, like, live her dreams and, like, follow her dream career. And then these people are like, oh, you're too fat to be in Star Wars. What?
Well, keep in mind, most of the female characters up to this point were either Princess Leia, some background old woman who worked in like one of the mini councils, or one of the thousands of prostitutes that gets shown in all of the bar scenes. So there's not a lot of women in Star Wars. Now, given I grew up loving Star Wars, I was deep in the EU, in what's no longer considered canon, where there was amazing representation. It just wasn't in the films.
What?
And so yeah.
Really?
Well, because the EU was a collection of books and comics and video games where there's so much great representation and great talking points and some bad takes. Don't get me wrong, there's some bad takes there. But when Disney came in, it was like, okay, the EU's no longer canon, we're coming up with our own canon. It was really hard for me as a longtime fan of Star Wars, because like all of my favorite characters were not from the movies. And so all of a sudden they were fan fiction, I guess, is what you would categorize them now.
That's terrible.
Yeah,
but
so
they were written by official people. Like, official...
Well, the EU is very complicated. Some of them were officiated before or after they were written. Just because there's a lot of content. There was a lot of content put out. And so when Disney took it over and they did their first, like, Star Wars movie, I thought, it was fine. There's some criticisms, but there's some criticisms of the prequels, too. Like, one of their characters straight up being a racist stereotype of Jamaican men. Jar Jar Binks.
Oh my. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, like, there's fair... Let me, like, really, like, there is fair criticism of just about every Star Wars movie. And then there's really bad takes. But the problem with the Star Wars fandom is whatever criticism you have will get thrown in there with the bad takes. So you're either being racist by bringing it up, or you're being racist by not bringing it up. And it ruins it, because I loved Star Wars. I have way too many cosplay outfits. I used to have not all, but I had most of the books and the comics. And I loved it. I really did. I grew up with it. I remember seeing the prequels in theaters, and yeah, there was some uncomfortable stuff that shouldn't have been in the films. But there was a lot of stuff to look up to. Like, I remember thinking Princess Leia, like, think about it. She was a young woman who was kicking ass in politics. When else did you see that shit in the 80s?
Right. And like you said, like, honestly, to that point, it was the 80s. So, of course, there was going to be a little bit of, non-progressiveness.
Yeah, and there's still, like, non-progressiveness. Like, that whole fucking robot part where she, like, frees all the robots, and they're like, what do we do now? We're useless without our masters. Like, that's a bad take.
That's bad, yeah.
It's hard to even talk about the series, because I want to be like, oh, I love it for these reasons, but I hate it for these reasons. Because there's people in both camps. You either can't criticize anything from Star Wars, or you're never criticizing enough. And no matter what opinion you have, you will be attacked for it online. And the guy who got pissed at me for saying that I thought the Han Solo movie ruined the character, he harassed me for months. I blocked him. And he had a second account, apparently. And he continued.
What website was this? What forum?
Twitter.
Oh my! Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, see, it's just like, I can definitely say that I thought the movie was bad for mischaracterizing what should have been a bad guy. Because his whole character arc in the, like, first set of movies was him going from being a scoundrel to being kind of a hopeful person and more of a positive person in the universe. But the prequel of him, like, totally took that and then, like, shat on it. Just took a big old dump on his character. And I was like, that's dumb. Like, I had fun watching it, but I thought it was dumb that they completely changed his character and his backstory.
I can see why you would feel that way. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was the first movie that starred a man in Star Wars, and up to that point, a good chunk of time. So a lot of the men in the Star Wars community who were getting sick of the female-led, minority-led movies were like, fuck you! Best Star Wars movie in the last 20-something years. And it's toxic. Like, if you can't have a conversation around a franchise, then it's toxic. Because the only way you can have a civil conversation is if you're talking to people in your same camp in the Star Wars community. And then it turns into an echo chamber, which turns into what the Star Wars community is right now. Which is why I can't say I'm a fan, even though I do have such a soft spot for the content.
I mean, you're allowed to still love it for what it was. And, like,
yeah, even with it, like, it had a lot of flaws. It really did. But, like, I have so many great memories of staying up late with my dad and watching the film.
I love that.
And him lying to the people at the ticket line to get me into, like, the PG-13
I love that.
And so it's really sad to see that and to know that any actors that go into any future films, they're going to look at what happened to Kelly Tran. They're going to look at what happened to John. They're going to look at what happened to the other people, and they're going to might not want to deal with that. Because Kelly, I don't know if she still believes that, but I remember watching her interview when people were asking her, why did you shut down your media site? She's like, I don't even know if I want to do acting anymore. That could be career ending. I don't know if she's standing by that, if that was just something she was feeling in the moment. Because again, I haven't really checked in on her in a while. Just like, I haven't checked in on why or how she lost the weight that she did. But it's...
in terms of, like, Asian actresses, in general, I have been reading about, like, especially not this generation, but like 5 years ago, plus, you know, like even Cho from I forgot what Cho Tran, I forgot what her last name is, from the Harry Potter series. She came out recently and said that she got a lot of hate for being Asian.
Oh my god, okay, so a character in the book named Cho Cham is obviously a white woman trying to make an Asian character. Like, let's be honest, people. For anybody who's like, I was shocked that she was Asian. Obviously she was supposed to be Asian. Cho Chang?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah,
the dumbest racist name I could think of, but, you know, a white woman writing an Asian woman. Well, obviously doesn't have very many Asian friends.
And then on top of that, recently, so this is actually, I don't know how I feel about it, because it's kind of like, okay, I get it, but not, I don't, here, let me explain. So, Nagini from the new Harry Potter, like, not Harry Potter, the Fantastic Beasts series, I haven't actually watched the films, but since I got into Harry Potter, I've been, like, reading about the lore and all the stuff. And I found out the actress for Nagini is just a beautiful South Korean woman. And so people are mad because she's playing what is going to be, in the future, Voldemort's snake. Like, his pet snake. So people are saying, like, why would you put an Asian woman in that, and then in that role, because it's such a negative thing, a negative role to play, I guess. And I guess in the movie she plays a very kind person and, like, goes through a lot of character development. But then, so J.K. Rowling, in response to these opinions and this flashback, she said, well, Nagini, or the Naga, which is, like, the mythical creature that this creature is based off of, like, the actual mythical creature, she says it's, like, of Korean descent. I think she said that, or, like, something like that. And it's actually not. It's Malaysian, which is still an Asian country, but, like, no, it's not Korean. Like, so I think she had, like, good intentions, but she didn't do her research, which is such a bad thing. Like,
it comes up a lot in a lot of different films.
And,
like,
yeah.
And then, you know, people get mad online that it's not the standard white.
But I also think that it's really great for the actress herself to get this opportunity to portray a character, like, and represent Asian or Korean women in films in general. So I I understand the backlash from the fans and stuff like that, but it's also like, it's like Kelly Tran, you know, imagine what that would do to your mental health if these people were just like shitting on the character and then your performance and everything like that. Like, I don't know. It's just...
It's rough. But we'll call it there. We might bring up representation in movies in the future, because I also eventually want to talk about the day Rue from the Hunger Games, quote unquote, became black. Because that's...
The what?
We'll talk about it in a future
Okay.
episode. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. If you haven't already, be sure to follow us on social media at The Cat and V Show. We are here with new episodes just about every week. We'll see you next time. Bye.
I'm V, and in this season of How's That Working For You, we're taking deep dives into mental health and breaking stigmas. New episodes are released every Monday, so check us out on your favorite podcast directory.